Hello, everyone. I don't like having to be back in this position where I'm making another video like this, but I've just watched the most recent Doctor Who episode, and it is leaving a very, very sour taste in my mouth. Now, I need to say ahead of time that there might be a trigger warning for this, but also do be warned that I am actually on the side of trans rights for this. Although it might not come across with that with some of my thoughts and feelings, I do want to have a discussion with you about this sort of thing, because I basically want to ask you the question, do you feel represented by the BBC? My main question comes down to this. Is being all-inclusive and forcing characters into the spotlight, forcing minority characters into the spotlight, sorry, should I say. I don't like using the word minority, but there's no other way to really describe it, because it's about groups of people, or select groups of people, are making them the focal point of something does it do more harm than good? Essentially, if you have a lesbian character, for example, and it doesn't matter to the story that they're lesbian, it doesn't influence the story, but the writers seem to want to make it the focal point of something as if it means something or changes something in the episode. Is that harmful? It's not the best example, but basically, let's go over the episode. The episode itself it's the first episode to introduce a trans character. We have, I think they're actually transsexual because they have transitioned, like they've gone from male to female. And honestly, awesome. I'm all for that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's also quite modern and, you know, it shows progression of the show and things like that. I know Doctor Who likes to get political with a lot of things, but there's a difference between subtlety and going, do you get it? Do you get it? Yeah? They're trans! Okay, I know that was quite an overreaction, but the show does that. I'm sorry, this episode goes out of its way to do that, and I think that's outrageous. Because we've had gay characters, we've had lesbian characters, we've had all sorts of a variety of characters in Doctor Who, and their skin colour, their sexuality, their gender, their orientation has never mattered. And, like, the first episode with Bill Potts, for example, who's the lesbian character, she was basically chasing after a woman in the episode, but the episode wasn't focused on her sexuality. It wasn't focused on the fact that she was a lesbian and she wanted a woman. It wasn't focused on that. The woman that she fancied ended up being taken over by this alien entity and in a way replaced, and it kept following her. It was still Doctor Who. Like, the whole episode was focused on some sort of alien adventure, and then this character got dragged along, and it's like, whoa, it can chase us across time and space, let's see how far it can go, oh my god, it's invincible to the Daleks, you know. That shit's cool, that's Doctor Who. In this episode, it's hard to talk about. It's a bit hard to talk about, because they're not necessarily doing anything wrong, but the way that the script writing for it, I really do feel they're harming themselves more than they're helping themselves. Because representation is fine. If you want to add a black character, cool. If you want to add a gay character, cool. But when it becomes the focal point of the episode, if there's not a reason... Example, Rosa Parks. There was an episode with Rosa Parks in Jodie Whittaker's series, which, to be honest, is probably one of Jodie Whittaker's best episodes, in my opinion. Because it handled a historical event really, really well. It had Doctor Who elements, and nothing felt out of place. It was a very political episode in the sense that it was about racism, but it was a moment in history. The whole Rosa Parks is a character that, well, she's not a character, she's actually a woman that has existed, but she stood up against racism. So the episode focusing on that is fine, it makes sense. This episode had nothing to do with gender or sexual orientation or transsexuality. It had nothing to do with that. But they really, really pushed it, for lack of a better word, like an agenda. And the BBC has been doing this a lot recently, and I don't know how anyone else feels. I don't think it's doing it justice. You can have, I think, right, here's the irony. if you had a trans character in Doctor Who, that's cool. Imagine, her name's Rose in this. I know that might... There's reasons. If you ever watch the episode, you'll understand why she's called Rose. But it's a different kind of Rose, not Billie Piper Rose. So Rose, who was formerly known as Jason, is our trans character. And I don't think there would be anything wrong with her being a new companion, for example. She's, spoiler alert, by the way, she's Donna's daughter. And she could, quite frankly, she could be the Doctor's new companion, and it would work. Do you know why? What's really cool about that is we could touch on the trans thing. It could be mentioned in passing, and it would never matter to anyone, because in my opinion, in order for something to be inclusive, if you want to include a black character, if you want to include a gay character, you treat them normally. You treat them like another human being. You don't make them the forefront of everyone's attention, because that annoys people. And if you're wanting to sort of change these people's minds, you need to not do that, because that will just solidify any bigotry that people have. Trust me. I believe that, because I've been going through not changes. I've been trying to better understand this whole trans situation, and I feel like I have done. But I watched this episode, and it made me grit my teeth. But there's actually other reasons for that. There were some elements of trans life that were captured really, really well. And honestly, if they left it at that, perfect. People would have understood that. That would have been a better cognitive, reaction from people. But no, they literally went, she's trans, and it matters! Do you get it? You need to stop what you're doing. I'll bring some examples up from the episode. So, example number 1, handled really, really well. I'm going to call them Jason in this circumstance, for reasons. Because you've got, Rose is walking with Donna down a road. She's holding some boxes, and some chavs on bikes are are cycling past her and going, "Yo, Jason, you look gorgeous, mate." They're basically shaming her for her decision to transition. And I'm not saying that's healthy, obviously, but showcasing it as this is the reality that some trans people go to, I think is worth it. That's really, really, it's humanizing. I'm not saying you have to be bullied, that's not my point. My point is that people go through this. So we're not forcing any agenda. Her transsexuality isn't the forefront of anything, it's just showcasing it in a natural way that this is what some people go through. And, this is something she's struggling with. And humanizing this character, that's good. Okay, and then not long after, say about 5 minutes, we've got Rose goes out to the shed, and Donna and her mother are having a conversation, and I think Donna's mother has a slip up, like she uses the wrong pronouns or something like that. They were just having a nice conversation about it. It's like I can't remember. Basically, she said he. It wasn't like that when he was. When they're just like, oh, sorry, and they handled it nicely. It was like, it's okay, that it is confusing times, that things are changing, and that was handled really well as well, because it was once again a natural conversation. That happens, especially amongst older people, where they're not quite, they're used to a certain way. Everyone's always male and female, and things need to progress and change, and it's hard to adjust to that change sometimes. And even Donna admitted that she makes that mistake sometimes, because obviously it's her daughter as well. She's always grown up with them as a son, and now they've made that change, but they're all getting familiar with it. Then every other instance starts to be very, very agenda pushing, and it's just uncomfortable to watch, because it serves no purpose to the story. And in fact, they made her transsexuality, I was about to say non-binary, but I'll get to that, because that's wrong, even in the context of the episode, which I find absolutely bizarre why they decided to make it a focus. They made it the whole focus of the climax, and it had no business being so. The climax would have worked the same, if not better, if they did not push her uniqueness. I'll explain. So the first flaw I found with this whole thing was... right. The Doctor was talking to this alien character known as the Meep, and just sort of passively through conversation, they said, was he, what, I don't remember what it is, but basically they labelled the Meep as a he. And then Rose speaks up, for some reason, to say, did you just assume its pronouns as a he? It's like, yeah, and then they were like, oh, sorry, no, what do you go by? He, she, they? I'm like, we're talking about a fictional being, an alien here. Why? I don't know. That it's uncomfortable because it's not natural. It's very push. We could push that in here. I don't know. Other people might not get sort of tetchy about that. But I don't feel like that was appropriate. I don't think that was necessary. I don't know. I don't know. It just... That's when it seemed a bit agenda pushy. That was the first moment because it was a focal point. It was like, did you just assume its pronouns? It's like, that was so needless in that circumstance, in my opinion. It's the much more harmless part of it. But it did make me grit my teeth, I'm not going to lie. And feel free to say what you want regarding that in the comments, how you feel about it. I do want to know, because I want to help better understand this. Was that moment okay, or could it have been handled better? That's what I want to ask. The next point... Right. I don't think there were any moments until the actual climax here. But, essentially... Okay, then there was one other moment that was actually pretty well handled. The Meep called Rose a weird child, and Donna got really tetchy about it, and I think that was fine, because once again, it was like, don't you know, that was a natural thing. The later point was... so, spoiler alert for the ending. Donna is supposed to die when she remembers that she was once the Dr. Donna. And they're forced into reminding Donna of her past with the Doctor, to which she then passes out. But she then wakes up alive, and Rose ends up becoming a sort of Dr. Donna as well. And it turns out that the meta-crisis that was in Donna's head, it was too much for one person, but then she had a child, and therefore passed it on. Which is cool. What an amazing conclusion to that. So... Donna is safe because she's passed on the part that she couldn't handle to her child, and now her child has these amazing abilities as well. And then... one of the saddest moments about Doctor Who when Donna was leaving was she got stuck in a loop because her brain was being frazzled. She ended up saying binary, 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 binary on loop, just like a broken record. Which, for the record, had nothing to do with binary or non-binary. But then what did Doctor Who do? Yeah, so... It flashed to Rose for a moment, where she had this sort of regeneration energy or something explode from her a little bit. Once Donna had been awoken. Rose ended up getting awoken as well. And it was like saying... And then it went binary, and then it flashed to Rose and it said non-binary. I'm like... What? What? Two things. One, her being non-binary had absolutely no relevance to the story or that moment in any capacity, but it felt like it needed to be mentioned. Why? Brownie points. In my opinion... I don't think there's anything else that can be said other than brownie points. Being non-binary held no relevance to this situation or this story in this moment. The meta-crisis passed down to her because she was her child. And that was it. It had nothing to do with her gender identity or anything like that. Although, I suppose there is something that can be said in which... The Doctor passed down, you know, the Doctor and Donna are kind of a male and a female in one, and that's why that kind of transitioned into that. It would make sense why... But then, do you really want to bring that to the forefront? she's only trans because her mother was kind of half man, half woman. I don't know. I don't think that needed attention drawn to it because, honestly, in terms of the story, that didn't matter. Donna just needed to have a child, whatever gender or identity they wanted to put on them, it doesn't matter. Like, it was about how we're saving Donna. Because what we gotta remember is this is Doctor Who, right? It's a science fiction show, not a show to push these kinds of things or make them the forefront. They can be all-inclusive and they can add these things, they can make things, but I do think it just needs to be more humanized. Oh, quickly, just one other thing I wanted to mention that I'm not sure where I'm going to slot this into the video because I'm not sure where it's the most relevant. But the other thing I wanted to make a point of is that this is the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. They've been hyping this shit up for an entire year. We had a trailer at least about like 6 to 9 months ago for this episode. And like, when I watch Doctor Who, it's an escapism, right? Or any kind of show for that matter. I watch it to kind of escape reality in a way. I want to avoid politics, it's a place to avoid. I just want to watch silly space-time adventures with a man in a magical box going around waving a magic screwdriver around, you know? That's why I watch Doctor Who. It's a sci-fi show that's a lot of fun. I don't mind it getting a little bit political at times, but when it starts agenda pushing in this way, for lack of a better term, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. It has to be said. And I don't think it was right for them to do it as because they're basically rebooting the series in a way. Not entirely, but they were going to can it completely. Doctor Who was going to die. But then they brought back Russell T Davies, they brought back Murray Gold for the music, the people that originally wrote Christopher Eccleston's series right up until Matt Smith came into the picture. And yeah, so the 60th anniversary has been pretty hyped. And to make this the kind of point or focus of your very first episode, I don't think it's healthy. It might cause some problems, because this is touchy ground for some people, and I don't think it was handled in the best way. But, as I say, I'd like to know what you think. Sorry, I'll go back into the video now. That was just another point I wanted to add. Anyway, yeah, so they made a point of saying non-binary. My second point on that is that she wasn't non-binary? Surely? She's gone from male to female and she dresses very feminine. I don't personally see how that can be non-binary. Clearly they feel one way about themselves, no? And if that's not the case, then I need educating on non-binary, because I'm sorry, non-binary makes no sense to me. In its literal definition, it's an oxymoron, but at no point in the episode did that matter. Like, it's just that non-binary. It's like, what? Since when? Like, it's just the fact that they brought that to the forefront when it didn't mean anything, and that's what I mean. But the worst offender in this entire episode was at the very, very end. Okay, so the Meep's been stopped and captured and blah, blah, blah. The doctors save the day. Donna and Rose are perfectly fine after the whole meta-crisis thing, after Donna revealed themselves, or, you know, after Doctor freed Donna from her own mind. And then they turn around and say, right, we still have to sort you two out. It's like, well, do we? Can we not just keep them as they are? What's wrong with them being the Dr. Donna and the Dr. Rose or whatever? What's wrong with this dynamic now? There's not really any danger here. At least they make a point that there is danger in that. They could have just left it. I think script-wise, they could have just left it. It wouldn't have been a problem. And then we get the most obnoxiously pointless and awful line in the whole show that just spits in the face of any male, in fact. Okay, they say outright, I think verbatim they say this, you wouldn't understand as a male presenting Time Lord. And all they had to do was let go. And they just released it. It just floated off into the air like a gas. They just held hands and that was it. A Deus Ex Machina, ending to that. But the lines as a male they said, "Too bad you're not a woman anymore, because you wouldn't understand as a male presenting Time Lord." What the fuck does that mean? So because he's a male presenting Time Lord, or because he's male presenting in any capacity, he wouldn't understand. He's incapable of letting go because he's a male. What? Irrelevant. Unnecessary. All of that. What the fuck? And let's be honest, the Doctor is, I don't even know how old now. He's at least reaching over like 2 million years old, I think, because he spent all that time in like the dial or something. But anyway, he's really freaking old and really intelligent. You're telling me he wouldn't know that just because he's a male? Right. And all that time he was a female, he wouldn't have thought of that, because apparently that matters. The fact that they were female once would have maybe flicked a switch in their head to make them understand it better. Huh? What? I don't know. And the whole male presenting thing? No. He's not male presenting. The Doctor is a male in that circumstance. Presenting as male is not the same thing as being male. I don't present as male, I am male. Both in gender, I don't think male's a sexuality, but anyway. Both in gender and in appearance and everything. Like, I am male. I don't present as male, I am. I feel like the presenting... I could be wrong, you are welcome to correct me. But this is why I wanted to have this discussion, so that we can come to a better understanding of this sort of thing as well, because there are some relevant things here. For example, this is... Isn't presenting as really only something that affects trans people, where they are presenting as one or another because they are exploring that element of their sexuality? Whereas, am I really male presenting when I am male, but I've been male my entire life for being cisgendered? I don't present as male. My mother doesn't present as female. I don't think it's appropriate to put that label on it. That's what I'm trying to say. Because we're just being who we've always been. We're not presenting as one or another, as if we're changing it. But anyway, so say what you will on that. Still, does that leave a sour taste in anyone else's mouth? This episode, those moments. Do you see where I'm coming from and why I make a video like this? Because these thoughts have been swirling around my head for a while, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit more, because I'd like to say I'm on your side. But I also want to better understand, like, I want to ask, do you feel represented when things like this happens in shows? Because this isn't the only show to ever do it. You know, it's like where they throw in black characters and gay characters into shows, and but they really make... I've seen it before where they've really made a point of them being gay, as if it matters to the story. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having a gay character be gay. It's just when the character's running around going, "I'm gay, do you get it? I'm gay." Yeah, but it's because I'm gay. That becomes annoying. And I don't think that's fair representation of a group of people. That's not right. I hate it when I see it as when you see gamers in shows and TVs where they're just always like, oh, you know, and they're just button mashing on a thing, and it's like, oh my god, man. I mean, to be fair, it's not a terrible representation, but they're always playing like a shit game, and then they, you know, how they represent gamers is another sort of thing. It's just a disconnect between the audience and reality. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. I'm sorry for ranting about that for a while, and I'm sorry if I said anything that might be a bit sort of... but do please feel free to please be respectful in the comments and educate me further on this sort of stuff. I do want this to be an open-ended discussion. As I said, I've been asking questions. It's like, do you feel represented? Do you think these moments are okay? Or do you feel the same? Because I did speak to one of my trans friends that thought about the same thing. In fact, they reminded me about that male presenting thing out the end. I had actually forgotten about that because I was a bit too livid about the whole binary, non-binary thing, because it sort of undermined Donna's tragic ending, in my opinion. by throwing the non-binary label on it when it had no relevance. But yeah, they reminded me of that, and they felt that was awful. And I'm sorry, in my opinion, that was so poorly handled and so unnecessary. And that's the biggest reason, is because them being the Dr. Donna still didn't really matter now, because they've had a child and they're still alive and blah blah blah. But I mean, I know the doctor said, "Oh, that's wrapped around your cortex." It's like, yeah, we didn't know that. We didn't need to know that. But whatever. Yeah. Let me know what you think, and thank you all so much for hearing me out on this one. I didn't expect to be talking about this for 25 minutes. Sorry about that. Anyway, hope you have a lovely rest of the day. I'll see you later. Ciao for now.